NYT put out the best 100 books of the 21st century. Please, let's not get into the technicalities of a top 100 list. We're doing it for a laugh. But I thought their list was absolute garbage. I'll link that video down below. And if you want to see NYT's top 100 books, I'll also link their list down below. But do you know you have to subscribe to NYT? And you could subscribe here. Comment, like, and share. If you're a video creator, feel free to mock my video. We got a lot to get through. 100 books. Let's start. I could just rattle off 100 books at you, but I don't think that'll be entertaining or enthralling. When compiling a list like this, the first thing you have to consider is, where do the best books come from? Once you can identify that, and if you're the NYT, was basically anyone who won the Pulitzer Prize, therefore American, you can begin to pinpoint some of the best authors from that country. Therefore, we'll highlight 2 countries. The first one, probably where the best literature comes from, it's India. One Part Woman by Paragal Murugan. If you've heard of this novel, you know that it was highly controversial. Set in Tamil Nadu, it follows a couple who are unable to conceive a child and therefore go to a fertility festival in order to solve that. Not only does this novel look at social norms, but it also is the intersection of religion, tradition, and modernity, and candidly explores the juxtaposition between human desires and societal expectations. Inheritance Lost by Kiran Desai. I've done a full review on my channel, and this looks at the clash between post-colonialism, globalization, and identity. Could you have a list of talking about Indian authors without Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni? And I've chosen Palace of Illusions, which is a feminist retelling of the Mahabharata. Divakaruni is given a voice to one of the wives of the Pandavas, and the Pandavas are arguably the central protagonists in the Mahabharata. A Gujarat here, a Gujarat there by Krishna Sobti. This is a memoir-like novel that explores what life is like after partition from the experience of a young woman. The Glass Palace by Amitav Ghosh. Another author who is a heavy hitter in India. This novel spans over a century of a Burmese teak worker and his descendants. Think of it, very loosely think of it, like a Indian Buddenbrooks. It differs is that The Glass Palace is actually readable. How can I not mention my favourite author, Salman Rushdie's Quixote, which I have done a review for. I don't even describe this novel. It's a modern retelling of Don Quixote sprinkled with Pinocchio, about a travelling salesman who is obsessed with a reality TV star. To me, Rushdie is the king of magical realism. There is no greater author in that space than Rushdie, but blend that with satire of the Trump era and you have a great exploration of the American experience alongside the immigrant experience. Cobalt Blue by Sakin Kandalkar. This book addresses the complexity of sex and love within modern India as we follow a brother and sister who both fall in love with a guest who arrives at their house. To wrap up this section, we have Manil Suri's The Death of Vishnu. This book effortlessly, through the weaving of various characters within a Mumbai building apartment, is able to provide a microcosm of Indian society, all while a old man called Vishnu is dying. Look, it was between India and this country of who creates the greatest works, and with this country there's not many books translated into English, so maybe if there's more, Poland might knock India off its spot. Polish writers are something to behold. The King of Warsaw by Stepan Szwardok. Set in 1937, we explore Jewish life while the rise of fascism is slowly encroaching into the Polish border. Not only is this a great historical fiction novel, but it also blends crime drama into it, which makes this utterly readable and wholly engrossing. The Books of Yakub by Olga Tokarczuk. I've got a review of that on my channel. This Nobel laureate's work is considered her magnum opus. So to choose one book, it's going to be this remarkable feat. 1,000 pages exploring the life of Jakub Frank, a self-proclaimed Polish messiah. Jakub Frank's story is one that if anyone told you, you'd think was made up. This is probably my favourite 21st century Polish novel. It's Swallow and Mercury by Violetta Gregg. How Gregg is able to capture the essence of rural Polish life through the eyes of her young protagonist Viola as she transitions from child to adulthood is impressive to say the least. And lastly we have Dorota Masłowska's White and Red. This novel, similar to a lot of Polish authors, are there to critique the rise of nationalism, and through the eyes of disaffected youth we're able to have some sharp social commentary. This is going to be such a long video. Let's break it up with some graphic novels and some manga. Let's kickstart with Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I love this book so much that my youngest child is called Hazel. Oh, I don't know what more you want me to say. Okay, just for you I will. This is an epic space opera that follows two lovers from warring alien races, and it is just a wonderful exploration of childhood, of adulthood, of found family. It's incredible. If there's anything on this list, like, Saga is the one that you definitely should read. So we have arguably one of the most popular mangas. One Piece people, just sit down. One Piece isn't appearing on this. Sit down. Be quiet. Highly popular, very beloved, very influential in the shonen manga space. That's Bleach by Tite Kubo. Let's put the only other manga on this list side by side. It's Death Note by Takumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. Not only do we have a great cat and mouse game throughout all of Death Note, but we also explore the idea of justice and morality. I don't think I know anyone who's read Death Note and not thoroughly enjoyed themselves. Next graphic novel, most people don't know it's a graphic novel. They only know of the film, but the graphic novel is not one to miss out on. That's Neil Gaiman's Coraline. Coraline is imaginative and it is also dark, about a young girl who finds a passageway to a parallel universe where everything is not as grand as it seems. Next we have the autobiographical graphic novel. I didn't realise those two words, autobiographical, graphic, would be so difficult to say, but we have Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, which talks about Satrapi's life in Iran during the Islamic Revolution. The last in this section, I don't even know if it fits here because it's never actually been published. It's a multimedia webcomic. Yes, you know I'm going here. It's Homestuck by Andrew Hussey, which I believe some of it doesn't even work because it was all on Flash animation. But if you can jump into Homestuck, please do. It's the Ulysses of the internet. It was like a definitive book of my childhood, mostly for my sanity, but also this video is going to get very, very long otherwise. Here are the prize winners. Like, all these books, I don't think you could argue that these books aren't highly influential, and if you don't know what any of these books are, just Wikipedia up. One aspect that I thought was missing from the NYT list was science fiction and fantasy, so let's get into it. Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. First of the Mistborn series' innovative magic system and epic world building. Let's be honest, Brandon Sanderson was going to appear somewhere on this list. This is a true standout in modern fantasy, and I don't see too many people talking about it. It's A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. This is the first book in a quartet, but how do I summarise it? Political intrigue in a fractured world with a young girl with unique abilities. That just sounds like every other fantasy novel, let's be honest. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which has some intricate, deep world building that makes this book absolutely stand out, and it also means that Patrick Rothfuss spends a lot of time writing books. When are we getting the next one, please? Next, I've put Mordu by Alex Phoebe, which blends dark fantasy with philosophy, asks and probes into some really interesting questions as we follow a young boy in a decaying city who has to learn more about his family and the city's ruler. And the last on this list is the first in the Southern Reach trilogy, and that is Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation. Wholly original, very captivating. It's a shame that the second one wasn't that great. And Area X as a whole is just this curious space that you want to learn absolutely more about. You're not going to get that in the second book, I'm really sorry to tell you. Day 2, it's like a British heat wave. I know the girls are going to be like, oh, the humidity makes my hair really curly. No one thinks about the guys with their beards. It's worse. Like, some parts are like a Scooby bracelet made out of pubes. It's just rough. Right, where were we? Numbers 30 to 33. We're headed over to the continent of Africa. Jambo Bwana, Ubarigati Sudisanya, Ikayenu Ikenibishwa Ikayetu Haku Namatata. I remember that song when I went to Kenya when I was 8, and no, Ngugi wa Thiong'o is actually not on this list. While no Kenyans make it onto the list, I really hope none of these are Kenyan now. I'm pretty certain there's no Kenyans on it, but I'd recommend going to Kenya. It was a great holiday when I was 8. Kintu by Jennifer Makumbi. This is a generational saga of the Kintu clan in Uganda. This offers great detail into Ugandan history and culture. Next we have Orchestra of Minorities by Chigozie Obioma, which is a retelling of the Odyssey told from the perspective of a Nigerian chicken farmer. It shouldn't work, but somehow it does, which adds a layer of depth I didn't know that I needed. From one Nigerian heavy-hitting author to another, we have Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This book is absolutely astonishing. Like Orchestra of Minorities, the protagonist here is a Nigerian who travels to North America for university. Adichie's insightful commentary on race, identity, and culture makes this book absolutely sing. And last in this section we have African Psycho by Elaine Babanku. Don't let the title fool you. This isn't a retelling of American Psycho. Instead, this is the story of a petty criminal who wants to kill his girlfriend, but needs tips from his mentor, an actual accomplished serial killer. But 100 books are a lot. Okay, we're gonna go speed mode on this. Let's cover the British and the Irish authors as quickly as we possibly can, because the leftists won't complain if we rush these people. Cove, Cullen Jones, man fights for survival after being struck at lightning at sea. It's a Welsh novel, very minimalist, very poetic. Martha Jack and Shanko by Carol Lewis. This is probably the best Welsh novel of the 21st century. End of. It's incredible. Get your hands on it. A tense and taut family drama set in rural Wales. I hate to mention her because she's absolutely abysmal. However, Ali Smith's Autumn is probably the best novel that depicts post-Brexit Britain and the discussion about the diaspora around Brexit. One of the greatest books ever written. It's Remainder by Tom McCarthy. I absolutely love this book. The man who loses all of his memory after being hit by something from the sky gets given millions of pounds and spends it all trying to replicate the day as best as possible, leaving to one of the best bank heist scenes ever. Light Perpetual by Francis Spuffer. This book imagines the life of 5 children who died during the Blitz in World War II and where their lives might have ended up being. A Paragon by Colin McCann. This story talks about 2 fathers, one Israeli and one Palestinian, whose children were both killed by either side. But what makes this story even better is that these 2 fathers actually exist. They actually came together to try to solve the conflict between Israel and Palestine, and these 2 fathers helped Colin McCann write it. Next we have 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Do not laugh, yes, this is on this list. It was a commercial success, but also changed the perceptions and revolutionised the romance and the smut genre. Treacle Walker by Alan Garner, which is an absolute hodgepodge of British folklore and modern storytelling. A lot of this is going to go over your head, but it is such a joy to read. Hey Theodora, do you want to learn a life lesson?
No.
You don't want to learn a life lesson?
No.
Can I do it anyway, just for the narrative arc of this?
Hi!
Okay then. In Russian, the British and Irish section, I actually forgot to mention one book, and that's Number 9 Dream by David Mitchell. No, not that David Mitchell, this David Mitchell. It's a story set in Tokyo where Eiji Miyake is trying to find his estranged father, and through daydreaming, vivid imaginations, and learning more about his family history, comes to terms with what's happened. Very creative, experimental in a way that isn't completely off-putting, with each part taking on its own creative endeavour. Number 9 Dream is my favourite Mitchell novel. We're not even halfway through, are we? Brexit might mean Brexit, but that doesn't mean we get to ignore the Europeans. You have Sergei Zhadan's The Orphanage, which is a poignant and raw look at the conflict in Ukraine that's currently going on today. And just to even things out, we have the Russian novel Amon Ra by Viktor Pelovin, a satirical novel about a wannabe cosmonaut that ultimately criticises Soviet society as our young protagonist begins to understand the absurdity of the situation that he is in. Next we have Hungarian authors Laszlo Krasznahorkai's The Melancholy of Resistance, where a strange Hungarian circus comes to town and causes absolute bedlam. If you've read any Krasznahorkai, you will know that it is denser than rye bread. But nevertheless, this novel expertly sees the downfall of a society. But for something a bit more light-hearted, I mean, this is about a sexton whose life is disrupted by a man trying to find his mother's grave. But this novel, Fresh Waters for Flowers by Valerie Perrin, is a wonderful exploration of grief, something that Max Porter wished that he could do. Staying in France and don't let the bedbugs bite. Woohoo! We have The Birthday Party by Laurent Mauvignier, which is it's a claustrophobic thriller that is wonderful. A quiet family celebration is absolutely upended by a horrific act of violence. Next we have The Nasia Dream by Augustin Fernandez Mayo, which I read, didn't really understand. It was absurd, it was abstract, it seems to deconstruct itself as you go through this trilogy, but my gosh, did I thoroughly enjoy it, even though I had no idea what was really going on. This is what I envisioned the internet novel to be. It is all over the place and refuses to be defined. Although I did just define it as an internet novel, but you know what I mean. One of the best portrayals of first love is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Asserman, which is simply about a summer romance between a teenager and a visiting scholar. You would think that chronicling your own life in a Soviet labor camp would be somewhat entertaining, but Sacred Darkness by Levin Berzhenishvili seems to do that. And lastly, there's Elena Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend. I don't think I need to say anything about this book. I've not read it, but if it wasn't on this list, there would be uproar. From Europe, we'll travel to neighbouring Asia. And with that, let's start off with the Turkish author. Is that Europe? Is it Asia? I'm not entirely sure. Snow by Orhan Pamuk tells the story of a poet who returns to a snowbound town and gets embroiled within political intrigue. This explores the ideas of religion, politics, and identity. What all these three topics have in common are that they are all great to mention at family gatherings. Next, we have 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. Yes, this could have fitted in the science fiction section, but it didn't, because otherwise I'd have like 3 books to talk about in Asia. So, like, there's a lot of leeway within these sections, okay? On top of that, we also have The Three Body Problem by Shijin Liu. These books are weird. I'm not entirely sure I understood both of them. One was great, one was bad. Why did you watch my reviews to find out which one, eh? But one book that was astonishing was Whale by Chun Myon Kwan, which is about a person who makes bricks. There is no way that this book should work, but somehow this blend of magic, realism, fantasy, fable makes bricklaying one of the most incredible books that have been written in recent times. But if you want something even more surreal than Whale, you gotta move to Kanjue. Kanjue, how you have broke me many times. Five Spice Street by Kanjue. Experimental novel about people who live in a fictional Chinese street. Get ready for your brain to fall out. In fact, any of Kanjue's novels, if you read them, your brain's gonna fall out, because I have no idea what Kanjue is doing half the time. But I love it. And lastly, within this section, we have Yan Yankees Serve the People. A love story set in the Cultural Revolution that is just oh so evocative, all while simultaneously criticising political ideologies and authority. Between Africa, Europe, and Asia, we have a little area called the Middle East. Could I have included them within Asia? Absolutely. Did I want to separate them out? Yes. First in this list, we have 1,000 Splendid Sun by Khaled Hosseini, which follows the lives of 2 Afghan women and how their lives intertwine. Next, we have June Rain by Jabor Douai, which recounts the aftermath of a massacre that happened in a Lebanese village. The novel looks at the exploration of violence upon a community and the remembrance and the memory of those events. This book definitely astonished readers when it came out, and that was Adanya Shibley's Minor Detail. This novella is split up into 2 parts. The first one is a war crime committed on a Palestinian girl, and then years later on the anniversary, a woman wanting to investigate that crime itself. A dystopian novel that a lot of people sleep on is The Queue by Basma Abdel Aziz, a story in a fictional Middle Eastern town where everyone must queue to do pretty much anything for no real rhyme or reason. It is Kafkaesque at its very best. To wrap up this section, we have Halia Alian's The Arsonist City, where a Syrian Lebanese American family come together after the death of a patriarch in Beirut. And this talks about displacement identity, and the effect that that has on family dynamics. I think one more day, I'll have this finished. I've just had an idea. Why don't I just ask people to do the rest for me? I mean, if I can get people to watch XXX rated glitch content.
I was a little bit afraid this was what this was going to be.
Really not sure how this is ever making it past any kind of guidelines on YouTube, let's be honest.
Kieran, why? Why do you... What are you up to?
I don't understand the context.
What's happening?
Is this like some weird take on pornography?
You see, I can't do that.
I feel like I'll never quite be the same after this.
Sometimes art goes too far.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
I can get people to read a few book titles, surely.
I can take it from here. And the great thing about this is that Kieran and I never agree. No, that's not true. We sometimes agree, but we don't often agree, mainly just because I think he's wrong. I actually like how he's organized this. So he's divided the books into categories. What have we got? What are we talking about? South American authors. The one category that I would likely not have read anything in. We All Love Cowboys by Carol Benjamin. Oh, this book sounds really, really fascinating. It explores the themes of love, memory, and self-discovery with two women who embark on a road trip through southern Brazil, confronting their past and their future. Sounds phenomenal. Why Are the Blind Men Dreaming? By Nomi Jaffe examines the transmission of trauma and memory across different generations as a memoir of a Holocaust survivor, interwoven with reflections by her daughter and her granddaughter. That sounds fascinating. Okay, I'm putting both of those on my list. Bonsai I actually do have, and I'm desperately excited to read. This is a small book that is significantly impactful. It's a minimalist story of love and loss between two literature students in Chile, and I am desperately excited to read this. Now I have to read it. Number 66 is 2666. This is a insanely beautiful, ambitious, deep book, considered a masterpiece. This is an immersive narrative that connects 5 stories around an elusive author and some unsolved murders in Mexico. I think you're okay. For once, I think we're okay on agreeing-ish.
You know what? Let's get up close and personal here. Hello there. Time for some high-quality content. The Fault in Our Stars. Now, this is a very profound book about how two teenagers struggle with their own cringe. There's some very graphic moments in this book, like the moment when Augustus Gloop says it's a metaphor and he pretends to light up a cigarette. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Now, this is a very boring book. It's some metaphor for totalitarianism. Very silly. Books should not use metaphors. It's too hard. Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. I don't know what the fuck that is. Twilight. Now, that's an excellent book. Most of it takes place during the day, though. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Voldemort Loses. Very good. A Monster Calls. Now, this is another one of these shitty metaphor books. We should not have to deal with metaphors. It's too hard. It's too boring. Akatar by Sarah J. Maas. Now, this is an incredible book series, according to my friend. Ends With Us. Now, this is a fantastic book. I was surprised not to see it on the New York Times list, but it's much better than that Elema Ferrante or that Wolf Hall. Again, metaphors in Wolf Hall. Wolves don't build halls. They live in the woods, okay? It Ends With Us. Now, that's a good title. That's a realistic title, because it truly did end with them. And I wanted to end it all.
And if you think my list was going to stop at young adults, guess again. Children's books definitely count. They're books, they're books. Sog by Julia Donaldson. I was a little bit disappointed that The Gruffalo was published in 1999. That definitely would have made this list. However, this book is my daughter's favourite, and she told me that this book had to be on the list. So I put it on the list. Because of that reasoning, these books were basically chosen by my 5-year-old daughter, and I'm not going to argue with you, and neither are you. Next, we have the darkly humoured I Want My Hat Back by John Classen. It's great. It's about a bear who wants his hat back. And then there's a really dark plot twist right at the end that no one was expecting. The third book on this list was actually the first book I ever bought my daughter, and that is Lost and Found by Oliver Jeffers, about a boy who comes across a penguin who is lost and strives to bring him home. But maybe home is not where he thinks it is. It's a cute little story, what can I say? I mentioned this book series a lot in recent videos, and it's because it's completely taken over our lives in this household. I think I read 3 of them every single day. And that is Hilda Folk by Luke Pearson, about a girl called Hilda who comes across strange and magical creatures in the world. And it's truly phenomenal. I don't get bored reading Hilda. It's amazing. It's probably up there with Saga, one of the best graphic novels I've ever read. But in saying that, I don't want to diminish the next graphic novel, and that is El Defo by Cece Bell, which is a really poignant exploration of disability. This tells the life of Cece, who lost her hearing due to meningitis, who learns to navigate childhood and adolescence while not being able to hear.
Hello! I have been given the modern classics section to react to. Gone Girl, okay, turned into a popular movie by David Finch. And if you couldn't figure it out, they were the twists, all the twists that keep coming. Glad Kieran's put it on the list. I think it is an important novel. There's a lot of people I've spoken to who were on a reading slump and they read it and they were like, they were reinvigorated to read again. And I think the movie does a fantastic job of adapting the source material. Absolutely agree with this. Next up, we have White Teeth by Zadie Smith. Chronicles the lives of two families in London, exploring themes of immigration, identity, and history. Celebrated for its wit, vibrant characters, and social commentary. I haven't read it. I know what is considered probably the most important book of the 21st century. There has not been a year since its release that I haven't heard about it constantly. That is the power of this novel. Even to this day, on a yearly basis, that novel will come up 4 or 5 times a year. I think I'm going to wait until I haven't heard anything, until it's been ages since anyone's mentioned it, and then I think I'm going to read it, just so it's not got such a high bar set when I will go into reading it. But yeah, excited to read it one, and obviously, of course it deserves to be on this list because of how much I've heard about it. Next up we have The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. Okay, an interesting inclusion from Kieran here. Kieran feels like the sort of person who would pick Donna Tartt's probably least praised novel and say it's the best one. Actually, to be honest, I think, The Little Friend and Goldfinch were both released in the 21st century, and I don't mind that this has taken precedence over the Goldfish. I personally think the Goldfish is a better novel, but yeah, I did really enjoy this one. It's exploration of grief and the many ways that it manifests, and especially within a young child and growing up, and I just thought that was done really, really well. The House of Leaves. Now, this is an absolute cult classic. A young family discovers their house is bigger on the inside than the outside, leading to a journey into madness. I absolutely adore House of Leaves. I think it's absolutely incredible. I might even put the word, he's not going to do it, is he? He's not going to say it, masterpiece. The genius of this book is the way in which the protagonist within it, who is poring over these documents about this family who moved into this house, whose footnotes we're reading, whose experiences of getting lost in this story, we almost become him in the process of making notes, of poring over everything we have, going through the footnotes, flipping back and forth, rereading passages, trying to figure things out. This book got so far under my skin, it still haunts me now. A great pick from Kieran, absolutely deserves to be on this list. The Lovely Bones. A murdered girl watches from the afterlife as her family and friends cope with her loss. I hated this book, hated it, absolutely hated it, couldn't stand it. I remember finding the little girl who is killed, this is going to sound horrible, I remember hating her, just her voice, her narrative voice. I remember being like, I can't stand this little girl. I can't stand her, and I can't stand her voice. I think it kind of just caught a sort of zeitgeist. I don't know. It just, everyone around me was sort of reading it as well. I was probably at the age when I was rebelling against everything that people commercially found cool. Next up we have a heartbreaking work of staggering genius by Dave Eggers. White Teeth in this I haven't read, but I have heard about this one. I've heard how it's very self-referential. It's sort of, the moment you open the book, I think even there's a contents of how you should read this book, and even in the preface it's even saying you shouldn't read the preface. It's being that kind of quirky, kooky sort of thing, and that actually I normally like that kind of thing, but I don't know why, but it actually has kind of put me off ever reading it. It's a true story, the author's experiences of his parents, I believe, both dying within 5-6 weeks of each other of cancer. They both died at the same time, and he was left raising his baby sister, I think. A memoir about the author raising his younger brother, brother not sister, after the death of their parents, known for its innovative style and raw honesty. Oh, there you go. Out of them all on this list of the ones I haven't read, this is the one I think I'm probably going to pick up next, or not next. I've got a stack of about 50 that I need to get to. And last on this list of modern classics, Kieran has put The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Do you know what? I really agree. I think this does deserve to be on here. I know Kieran's list is a bit different from looking at the whole list. I know it is a little bit different in this from the New York Times one, in which the New York Times was just like the best, wasn't it? And I think Kieran's list is leaning much more to the novels that are important and that deserve to be, you know, that have done, you know, things like Gone Girl, like these sort of cultural, sort of commercial hits, but are actually really important for reading, really important for novels. And I think The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime is an absolute, it is, you know, you've got young readers who absolutely adore it, but you've also got adults who absolutely adore it. I think it is written beautifully. I think the storytelling is fantastic, and I think it's way that it deals with autism in a really kind of head-on, realistic, but not. It's just handled beautifully. Everyone should read The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. I can absolutely understand some people reading it and it not being for them, but when it comes to a list like this, I think it absolutely has to be on there. So I think this is a great inclusion from Kieran and definitely deserves to be on the old list.
Bloodwine, come here, I forgot to record. Can you take over? Thank you. Paul? Good girl.
Hello, hi, what's up? It's me, Karen, your favorite booktuber, and I've gathered here because I'm trying to help my friend out. My friend did the Lord's work. They put together a list of incredible books that is a response to what the New York Times is doing, because to be honest, I don't know what modality they were using. I don't even really know what modality Karen was using, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk to you about Scandibooks. And we've got 4 books on the docket. The first one is A Death in the Family by Carl Knausgaard, which is the first in his autobiographical series. It is an unflinching depiction of life. The first one focuses on the father's death and the immediate aftermath, and this focus on the mundane, this unflinching honesty is what makes this book stand out. The second book is the only book that I have read on this list, Septology by Jan Fosse. Now, Septology is a book that was published in parts, but it's 7 parts to make up one book. And Septology is a man reflecting on life, death, and God. It is interesting because there's really no punctuation in the book. There's no periods. It is one continuous sentence. It is a moving, meditative experience to read this book. Quite submersive. It is intense but good. I really enjoyed it. Book 3 is Heaven and Hell by Stephenson. Now this is a book that is about the most important things in a man's life. Life, death, fishing. Book 4 is a very, very popular book. I honestly don't even know that much about it, even though it was a movement in the culture. It was a moment. The Girl with Dragon Tattoo by Larson. From my understanding, I realized afterwards that I was getting this book confused with Gone Girl.
Twisty beast.
This book sparked the Millennium series, which gave us great plot, great characters, and it is about a journalist and a hacker joining forces to solve an old disappearance, I think. That's my contribution to the video. I'm looking forward to seeing who else is involved, what the rest of the list is looking like. I'm excited for Kieran's editing. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Hi, if you don't know me, my name's Alyssa. I have a YouTube channel, Nerd Nurse Reads. Let's do this, because I don't even know what these books are. Kieran asked me to read off the North American authors section of his list, and we all know there's only one country in all of North America, right? Howdy, partner. Welcome to Cormac McCarthy country. Born in the USA. I'm getting rid of this because the patriotism is making me itch. Polar Vortex by Shani Mutu. I don't even know what this book is. It says a lesbian couple's relationship is tested when an old friend visits their isolated home. I might read this. It explores themes of memory, identity, and the complexities of relationships. Seriously, I never heard of this before. The Idiot by Elif Bautuman. The Idiot follows a Turkish-American freshman at Harvard as she navigates life and first love, celebrated for its witty and introspective narrative. I see a lot of the book talk, booktube, cool girls talking about Idiot, and I feel like at some point I do need to read it. I don't hate that one. Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. I will be reading this year, actually, I think. Brutal murder in a Mexican village uncovers a web of violence and corruption. Ooh. It's known for its intense prose and unflinching look at societal issues. Why can't I say unflinching? Unflinching. Falling Man by Don DeLilio. I'm just laughing because I'm pretty sure that Kieran doesn't like Tom DeLilio. Anyway, follows the lives of several people affected by the 9/11 attacks. Sort of over. I don't really want to read a 9/11 book. Known for its exploration of trauma and the impact of historical events on personal lives. I think I get enough of that with the pandemic book. So moving on. Love You More, Tom Spanbauer. Summary: a writer reflects on his intense friendship and love triangle with another writer and a young artist. It's a friendship and it's a love triangle. Is this kind of like pervy? Hopefully everybody's above age for this. And finally, number 100. Why did I get the end of this list? Number 100.
Kieran in this list has included things that I'm really happy with, like he's looked at children's books, which I think is fantastic. He's looked at young adult fiction, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And he's looked at science fiction and fantasy. So he's looking, but where's horror, mate?
My Immortal, fan fiction about a goth teenage girl at Hogwarts. I'm down. You had me. That's it. Best book of the century, right there. Known for its notoriety. Karen, why did you ask me to do this? I can't read. Known for its notoriety as one of the most infamous and poorly written fanfics, it has gained a cult following for its unintentional humor. Sign me up. I'm just gonna right over to AO3. Is this what you wanted, Kieran? I don't know, is this what you wanted me to do?
This video was taking me over 48 hours from the planning, the filming, the editing, and I can't wait to just get comments saying, I can't believe you forgot that bug, I can't believe you forgot that bug. Such is the life of a troubadour.
Tell Kieran how much you hate these pics.